Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Wow. We are so grateful and honored to be here with you. Thank you for having us. My name is Sally Abed. I am a member of the national leadership at Standing Together. I'm 31 years old. I was raised and born in the village of Maalia in Western Galilee, and I currently live with my amazing partner in Haifa.
And my name is Weltmann. I'm also a member of the national leadership of Standing Together and national field organizer for the movement. I live in Tel Aviv with my husband and our two small daughters, aged 6 and 8.
Before I start, I really want us to take a minute to just acknowledge this amazing moment. It is very rare for us to experience this kind of space where so many people are gathered not only to envision a better future for us in Israel-Palestine, but actually think collectively of ways to get there. So thank you.
Standing Together is the largest grassroots Jewish-Arab movement in Israel. We bring people together around a new vision for Israeli society, one that is grounded in the principle of peace, equality, social and climate justice. And how do we do it? We do it by organizing people, by setting up local groups throughout the country, in Jewish cities, in Arab cities, and in shared cities, as well as in university and college campuses, and by mobilizing people for change, both through reactive actions as well as in proactive campaigns.
This is an emergency rally that we had against the so-called deal of the century, a deal in which Donald Trump and Bibi Netanyahu concluded the annexation of the Palestinian West Bank and stripping hundreds of thousands of Palestinians within Israel from their citizenship. For me, as a Palestinian citizen of Israel, I know very well the meaning of conditional democracy, because at any given point, my democratic rights and my citizenship can be under threat.
And even without this threat, Palestinian citizens of Israel suffer daily discrimination and oppressive policies, especially so after the passing of the so-called nation-state law 4 years ago, which cemented Sally's status as a Class B citizen.
Now, following the recent elections, this threat is more tangible than ever. Openly Kahanist groups, for the first time in Israel's history, will enter government. They will be given executive power to pursue freely their dangerous agenda. It's dangerous for us Palestinians within Israel. It's going to be dangerous for Palestinians in the occupied territories. But it's also going to be dangerous for many of the already marginalized groups within Israeli society. This includes women, people with disabilities, and the LGBTQ community, including Uri's family.
Facing this danger, we need to build a people's opposition to bring together the various communities affected by the discrimination in our society, by the oppression in our society, by the injustices in our society. And we will do this by telling a new political story.
And this political story, you know, like any story, requires a protagonist. Who is us? That is, after all, the main question in politics, right? Who is us and who is they? Is it us, the Palestinians, and them, the Jewish people? Is it us, the moral, the enlightened, the liberal, and them, the ignorant, the racist, the basket of deplorables? Is it us, the seculars in the state of Tel Aviv, and them, the religious ones in the small towns in the peripheries?
When we speak of us, we envision a very broad us, one that is comprised of both Jewish and Palestinian citizens of Israel. Jewish-Palestinian joint struggle is not merely Jewish solidarity towards Palestinians, nor is it limited to saying Jews and Arabs refuse to be enemies. Rather, Jewish-Palestinian joint struggle is the very deep notion that we share interests in our society. And therefore, we need to bring about joint struggles around these shared interests. We, Jewish and Palestinians in Israel, we have joint interests to have food on the table, to make ends meet, to live in a affordable house, to walk safely in the street, to have decent public transportation. And yes, Jews and Palestinians in Israel both have an interest in freedom, in peace, in security, and in ending the occupation.
This is a story that is seldom told in Israeli politics. A very wide us and a very narrow them. If done methodologically and strategically, it has the potential to actually build the power to enact the change we all want to see. In fact, this is how we believe we can build the foundations for Israeli politics and Israeli society. To build the political will, the political capital, to not only fight oppression and inequality, but actually resist the occupation, paving a way for Israeli-Palestinian peace.
But it is not always easy to imagine this broader us. We need to train the muscle of political imagination. We need to regain our ability to imagine an Israeli-Palestinian peace and to envision a society that is just and equal, especially at polarizing moments like we had during the month of May last year. This photo was taken during a big rally we initiated at the time, organized jointly with other partners, against the war, against the violence, against the occupation. Speaking to a crowd of thousands at the march, Sally was reminding the audience that we in Israel, Jews and Palestinians, we all deserve dignity. We all wish to live in security. We all aspire for freedom. This is how we tell a story of us around shared interests, even at times of conflict.
We don't pretend like we know exactly how this new us will look like. We really don't. But we create organized, safe spaces for people to be courageous enough to navigate those complexities and acknowledge the difficulties and the obstacles in this kind of story, but also insisting on staying together. We also don't pretend like it's easy. Last May, not last May, the May of last year was really, really hard on all of us, on all of Israeli society and Palestinians. But it was especially hard for Jewish and Palestinian citizens of Israel who remained together. In the current story of us and they, commonly accepted in Israeli politics, we, Palestinians, were not allowed to ache and to feel pain as Palestinians. But we were also not expected to be scared like the average Israeli, even though our streets were on fire and we spent all-nighters in shelters. My Jewish partners were faced with hostility, even though all that they were doing was fight for the security of their families. It was really hard to talk about the new us during May. But standing together was able to create a space for tens of thousands of Israelis, Palestinians and Jewish, to be able to talk about that new us.
We are not only reacting to polarizing moments of crisis that are forced on us by the actions of others. We also take initiative into our own hands and launch campaigns that tell this story of a broad us, a narrow them, and a new majority in Israeli society. We did that a year ago when we launched a campaign to raise the minimum wage in Israel to 40 shekels an hour. This was a campaign that united people across differences. After all, there are both Jewish workers and Palestinian workers in Israel that need a minimum wage raise. There are minimum wage earners in the secular center of Tel Aviv and in the ultra-Orthodox city of Bnei Brak and in the rural towns in the northern and southern peripheries. This campaign has a clear Jewish-Arab us and a clear depiction of the new majority we need in Israeli society. This campaign also gave us an opportunity to create unlikely alliances.
After mobilizing hundreds of volunteers to canvass for minimum 40 all throughout Israel and raise the demand in social media and traditional media, we introduced the minimum 40 to the Knesset. We drafted a bill co-sponsored by over 40 members of Knesset from the coalition and from the opposition, Arab and Jewish, secular and religious. As you can see, these are some of the members of Knesset that co-sponsored our bill. And despite the government's opposition to the bill, we were able to pass it in preliminary vote.
What enabled us as a movement to do this was not only the fact that we were telling a new political story, but that we organized people and built power that backed this story. If we want to win, if we want to make gains and breakthroughs, if we want to reshape what people think is politically possible in Israel, we need to organize people. We need a grassroots movement in Israel. A movement that is facing the public, that is looking outwards, not to be content merely with speaking with people who are already convinced, but engaging people where they are, in their neighborhoods, in their schools, where they shop.
And we consciously devote time and resources to build a movement that can do exactly that. To form local chapters in various communities, to train activists in community organizing, to empower students on campuses and politicize these amazing, important shared spaces. And we also develop new emergent leaders, locally and nationally. We also understand that there are no shortcuts. In order to enact change, we need to build power. And in order to build power, we need to organize people within a movement.
It is sometimes very easy to despair. As we were making the way here to DC for this conference, we heard the sad news of killing of more Palestinians in the last couple of days. There have been more than 200 Palestinians dead in the West Bank and Gaza Strip and East Jerusalem in the last year, making it one of the deadliest years of the past decade. We also saw the return of mass shootings to the heart of Tel Aviv and bus bombings in West Jerusalem. With the new and dangerous government, we will face ever more threats, ever more violence, and ever more challenges.
But we also know that it can be different, because we deserve better. And standing here in front of all of you, and being part of standing together, of عمدين بياخد نقف معا, we believe in our collective ability to change. And what is our belief in our ability to change, if not hope? And in the words of Mahmoud Darwish, the national Palestinian poet, whose words are hung on the entrance of our offices to remind us of this powerful message. هنا عند منحدرات التلال أمام الغروب وفوهة الوقت قرب بساتين مقطوعة الظل نفعل ما يفعل السجناء وما يفعل العاطلون عن العمل نربي الأمل. Here, on the slopes of hills, before dusk and the chasm of time, close to the gardens of broken shadows, we do what prisoners do, and what the jobless do. We cultivate hope.
We are building a people's movement in Israel. And we know this cause has many allies abroad, including the numerous people here. We are grateful for this opportunity, for J Street to make it happen, and we thank you for your time and support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank